In this segment I have two Integrationist decks and the Psychological. The Psychological deck here by Robert Wang is probably the most off-color for pretty much the Nine of Swords that I've ever seen. He attributes the entire sword suit to Libra, period. And then what happens is this is the moon in Libra, sort of picking up off the ninth Sephra, I guess, there somewhat, where he has his own system. At any rate, this is happy-go-lucky card for him. This is good relations, people getting along, well-wishing, everybody's clicking. He calls it sharing. And so, unlike the other cards that we saw in the traditional school, especially the Nine of Swords in the culturally relevant postmodern deck, which was called Nightmares, actually, or it's usually also known as the Lord of Cruelty and Despair. And this is quite, sharing is quite upbeat. Everybody's getting along, they're communicating well, everything is balanced out. There's sort of a low, steady, good hum underneath it all. Quite a different feel in the Psychological deck in this particular manifestation. Moving into the Integrationist with the Sacred Rose Tarot, one of the interesting pieces is you don't see the eyes at all of this character. Her face is in her hands. These swords are impaled in the body of a woman, basically, as her hair blows around in the moon. So there's a bit of the Yesid imagery there, but the moon is often overused in the sort of sword suit in Sacred Rose Tarot anyway. However, she says this is sometimes called the card of the unloved, and for Gargilio Sherman, it's quite different. This is not you worrying about things. This is your obsessive and compulsive personality and basically poor actions, overreacting, being a psychological mess, and now paying the consequences of it. All of the nines are consciousness issues for Gargilio Sherman. They all deal with the issue of consciousness, becoming aware of the karma that you've generated, the things, and having an epiphany, which is a manifestation of God or a sudden inbreaking in awareness about things you're doing and how that's working out for you, to Dr. Philip. And so basically, this is a point where you face your truth, you take your lumps, and you stop being a self-martyr. And that's what it is. This is sort of the true sense of the word psychological masochism. Masochistic personalities, by the way, in psychoanalytic thought are not sexual in nature. They're just people that are always giving. They're wanting to climb on a cross for everyone or claiming to be suffering when in fact most of it is pain of their own doing. So part of it is, she says, face your pain and move on. Face the fact that, you thought you're claiming that, you have had knowledge and conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel, but then you spend a half an hour ranting about a cat tarot deck. Does that really line up? Can we really believe that? And, it's quite interesting is the Swami Vivekananda, I guess, he talks about what we need to do to receive that someone has gotten such a vision. And one thing is, he says, you look at motives. You're trying to look, are they trying to look good? You look at their purity, and obviously if someone has to rant and be full of hate, can we really receive that? Is it something that is beyond the senses of the world? And lastly, this is to be something that we all can sort of attain to. But, obviously someone that does not have this, trying to look good and be a heavy hitter, posturing, and is full of hate, obviously it's very hard to receive such a testimony that they have knowledge and conversation of something so intimate that they've contacted their higher self. Don't say that and then act that way. It's better to be known as a heavy hitter in your community, as a person of grace and of kindness and of generosity, than one of knowledge of occult sciences. Maybe that's just my take, but it's a great layup for the Rumi Tarot. In this one, on the road, souls are tried by terror. And Nigel Jackson relates a story in which a dervish spends the night in a ruined mosque, and a powerful and vicious spirit haunts it and tries to scare him away, but he grabs a hold of himself and stands up to his fear and instantly he is showered with gold so much that it takes him all the rest of the night to bag it up. And the idea is, not to take that literally, but that riches are there for those who confront their fear and overcome them. It's not that you are unafraid when facing your fear, but courage is doing the right thing in the face of your fear. And so this is a very interesting and very spiritual take of confronting your fear head on, facing it and winning. It's sort of like the original Nightmare on Elm Street, where Nancy wins by sticking her back to Freddy and saying, "I'm not afraid of you anymore." And that disempowers him, castrates him so much, his power, that he goes away and loses. So quite a bit of difference in the integrationist decks and the psychological decks when looking at this. Obviously, if we had the Via Tarot here and the Nine of Swords, when we hopefully do the next rotation, you'll see how that can be quite different. I'm also looking at maybe rolling in the Osha Zen deck as well. Take care, and let's move on to systems-based.